What's going on, everybody? It's Davey from the 80s, and you are now entering the cinema chop shop, so park your ass right there. Right there, don't forget to hit the like, the share, the subscribe button. Also, if you check the link below, you'll see a Patreon account. If you click it, you can become a member. All you got to do is try recommend movies and music and trailers for me to react to, so click the link. Now, with that being said, we are here today to review The Flash by Andy Muschietti, who's also done Mama, who's also done It, Chapter 1 and Chapter 2. This movie is starring Ezra Miller and an abundance of other characters, one of those being Michael Keaton himself, reprising his role as the iconic Batman. And then also we have Sasha Calais as Kara, aka Supergirl. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and get into this review. Initial thoughts. So, one, this movie is being dragged a lot for CGI, and honestly, it deserves to be dragged for CGI. The CGI in the movie is really bad, right? The beginning CGI is horrible. The CGI towards the end is really horrible. There are some de-aging techniques that sometimes play out. There are some CGI renderings that don't play out that well. There are some computer-generated designs that don't play out so well. And honestly, like, I understand that when the Flash is running very fast, that you're going to have to, you want to capture that essence, you want to capture him entering the Speed Force. But this has to be some of the most weakest speedster animations I've seen in a live action movie. I believe Eternal Speedsters did it a whole lot better. It's just, I really just wasn't getting into the whole. And like, it just looked dumb to me. Like at times it just came off as really stupid. And I believe that the movie is even aware of this because there's one joke in the movie where it references that motion, and again, it looks stupid, and to me, the CGI just looks terrible. I feel like they did a really bad job at capturing the Speed Force and capturing and making Flash's speed iconic. Like, he's considered one of the fastest characters in all of comic book history, and yet I just didn't feel it like with him. I just really sincerely didn't feel like he was fast. Like he keeps saying in the movie, like, I don't feel fast, or I feel slow. I feel slow. You look slow too, both, like physically and mentally. You look slow in this movie, homie. As far as Ezra Miller, even though he's a piece of crap as a person, as a human being, I will say that his character of the Flash was done pretty well. Like he did it pretty well. His acting came off, acting wise, he did a really good job playing two characters and making two distinctive personalities, and it was really interesting seeing that. However, I have to question the writing in this movie, because the writing in the movie has made Flash's character inconsistent developmentally. And at the beginning of the movie, he comes off as very erratic, very blinky, very scared of the world, just very like, and at times, he comes off as if he's like, I feel like the Flash has come off as like he has ADHD, like he's just hyperactive and can't, like, sit still or whatever, right? But this incarnation of the Flash feels like he's on the spectrum. It feels like he has some type of autism, and there's nothing wrong with that. Obviously, there's nothing wrong with that. But if you're going to do that, then you should keep the character consistent, right? Because towards the middle of the movie, he kind of digs out of that personality trait that was present in Justice League and is present at the beginning of this movie. And then in the middle of the movie, he just turns into this whole different person. He's all of a sudden, he's matured and he's become regular and normal. And he's just, all of those things that he was doing at the beginning of the movie, they're just erased and gone. And all of a sudden, he's just this typical regular person, with superpowers. And then we get back to the end of the movie, and he just goes back to being the way that he was at the beginning of the movie.
That makes sense.
If you are developing, right, and you're developing and you're maturing because of the situation, and the situation has matured you, then you should stay matured. You shouldn't be like taking a step back once you enter your world. You get what I'm saying? Like I felt like that was poorly done. So far I have the CGI is bad. That's bad. And let's get into Kara, Supergirl, whatever, what's her name? Sasha's character, right? Her character is freaking terrible, right? She has limited speaking. When she does speak, she just, I don't know, she doesn't say much. There's no like enthusiasm behind her voice. And majority of the movie is her going, rah, rah. You would think that you're watching the Hulk. Like you didn't realize that you're watching a Kryptonian girl. You feel like you're watching the Hulk. She has limited dialogue. The dialogue that she does have, it feels like it's doesn't matter. You know, it feels like it's just pointless. You know, and I didn't like her character, and even the motions that she chose when she was fighting. She does this punching motion. It looks so weak. It looks dumb. Like even just the motion that she threw, it didn't feel like a clean punch. You know, it looked weird. And I'm just like, dude, like you guys could have touched up this animation. You guys could have like touched her up as a character. And then if we're breaking the movie down into three pieces, beginning, middle, end, right? The beginning of the movie is very, very boring. I get it. You're setting up the scene, whatever, giving the background story, whatever. Boring. The beginning of the movie is boring as hell. Now, the middle of the movie, this is where you get the fat. This is where you get the cake. This is where you get all the goodies at. The middle of the movie is the best part of the movie. This is where I was fully engaged. I was paying attention to everything that was going on. I was immersed in the film. All right. And then you had the anticlimactic climax. And then you had a horrible ending with a horrible twist that was horribly predictable with a villain that randomly reappears after seemingly only being in the movie for like 5 seconds at one point. You know, it really feels like the villain in the movie was absolute, just like, hey, here, let's throw that in there real quick. You know, it was really stupid. I felt like it was pointless, and I just didn't feel anything for that ending. The ending was whack. What else? So the beginning of the movie's terrible. The beginning of the movie's boring. The middle of the movie's great, and the ending of the movie was terrible. Right? CGI was terrible. Plot points were terrible. And here's another thing: this movie missed on a golden opportunity. This movie could have been dark. This movie could have been very, very dark, and it could have also felt like it had a message. And although the message was conveyed in the movie briefly, I felt like they should have talked a little bit about more grief, about the effects of grief and dealing with grief, and how deaths in the family or deaths shape you to be a different person, and how they shape you to be a better person. You can kind of see versions of this in the movie if you make those parallels yourself. But I feel like the movie had an opportunity to really kind of give the audience like an actual dialogue with an aha moment where the character himself realizes this and talks about it. There's one briefly in there, but it's done at such a terrible time where it kind of diminishes the whole movie, because you have to stop, kind of get caught up on what's going on, and then you get hit with this weird character. You know what I'm saying? You get hit with this dialogue that feels like it's just kind of out of place. So I really feel like this movie dropped the ball and missed on the opportunity on really like hammering it home. Also, there are moments in this movie where it's supposed to get you to pop. It's supposed to make you cheer. It's supposed to make you clap. It's supposed to make you hoop and holler. And it does absolutely nothing for you, right? I guess you want to call it Easter eggs. I call it cheap pops, you know. And really, it did nothing for me. I smirked slightly, but at the same time, it just didn't do anything for me. I was just like, okay, cool, you know, let's go on to the next thing. This serves no purpose. All this basically is doing is it's trying to hide the flaws that are present in the final act. That's all it did. All it did was try its best to hide the flaws in the final act. They really tried to do that. They tried to do a cool little fun pop and get the crowd going. Oh! They wanted you to do that so that you could realize that this ending of the movie was complete, utter garbage. And don't even waste your time waiting for the ending credit scene. It is a complete waste of time. Complete waste of time. And just watching that reenactment of the terrible CGI in the beginning as you're watching the credits roll is enough to make your freaking heart stop. It's bad. You get what I'm saying? It's bad. But there is, again, two bright sides of this movie. Michael Keaton's Batman is freaking phenomenal. I mean, the Danny Elfman score hitting in the movie was super nostalgic. You had him being one of the best Batmans on screen, dope as hell. You had all the little callbacks and things like that. And also Ezra Miller did a really fantastic job. So and then also the middle of the movie is really good. The middle of the movie is really good. And most of the middle of the movie is involving Michael Keaton. So the middle of the movie, Michael Keaton and Ezra Miller kind of, they try to help this movie and they try to save it. But in all honesty, they can't do it. This is a bad movie. Oh my God, that final credit scene was fucking terrible. Yeah, so another bad thing about this movie I forgot to mention. There's a lot of all of the pops, I slightly mentioned it, but all of the pops and all of the like Easter eggs that are meant to make you go crazy, they come off as really corny and forced, and they don't even have it. The timing feels terrible, right? It just feels like it's being done just to be done. And Michael Keaton's character utters one of them in the trailer, and when he utters it in the movie, it comes off as completely cringy because it's out of place. It doesn't belong there.
What the hell did you just say?
Also, the movie does have a bit of comedy in it. And the comedic elements of the movie, for the most part, they're pretty damn funny. Right? I actually laughed a couple of times, right? And it's kind of hard to get me to laugh. But overall, this is not a good movie. Like, I mean, it's not a good movie. And I'm going to give you my grade right now. So here on the Cinema Chop Shop, we grade movies in 3 ways. Count them 3 ways. Either you get bodied and sent to the bowels of hell, and I tell you this movie is basura, homie. Or you get a big fat meh, and I tell you that it's más o menos, mediocre, mid-range jumping. Or I say you're spared. I'm saying stop what you're doing. Go watch it. Take your children. Take your auntie, your uncle, your cat, your rat, all of that. I'm going to give this movie a big, fat meh.
Not quite my tempo.
Not impressed.
But it can be better.
Mediocre.
Meh.
But the TV gave me the impression that...
We said meh. M-E-H. Meh.
You heard it, folks. I'm giving this movie a big fat meh. And I know people are thinking like, damn, you just sat here and shitted on this movie for like X amount of time and you gave it a meh? I thought you was going to body this shit. And in all honesty, it possibly could deserve it. But at the same time, Michael Keaton's character and Ezra Miller's acting and the Danny Elfman score and some of the comedic elements, they really do play a good role in this movie. They try to keep it going. This is not a completely terrible movie, by far. I've seen worse. But it is not a great movie. It could have been a great movie. This could have been a dark movie that really touched on a lot of things that people are dealing with on a daily basis. But it didn't do that. So we have this movie, you know? We have to deal with what we got. And they missed out on a golden opportunity, like I said, in order to really be deep and to really touch on grief and the effects of grief and how this could possibly affect time in a more deeper aspect. You get what I'm saying? And have those conversations. Think butterfly effect, you know? But overall, I was very disappointed in this movie. It didn't do it for me. It was very mediocre. It was very mid. It just didn't deliver. I was expecting a whole lot more from this movie, especially with such a story like Flashpoint, where this is literally one of the most biggest stories in DC Comics, and they just didn't get it right. So, I mean, it is what it is. So that's all I got. Let me know if you agree or disagree, whatever the case may be. Drop it in the comment section down below. And you are now exiting the Cinema Chop Shop. Hope you guys have a magnificent day. Adios, homies.